This morning, as the Supreme Court decision sinks in, a look at where the country stands in regards to abortion rights. A new CBS poll shows a majority of Americans believe overturning Roe v. Wade represents a move in the wrong direction for the country. And by a large margin, some 20 points, Americans believe repealing abortion rights is a step backward for the country rather than a step forward. And this same poll shows that women in America believe this ruling will make their lives worse instead of better by more than a 3-to-1 difference. NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett joins us from outside the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Maura, good morning. So I know you've been getting reactions from supporters of abortion rights all weekend. You've been out there in front of the Supreme Court. Tell us, what have you been hearing?
Well, Savannah, I was standing almost in this same spot when the decision came down. And at the time on Friday, we saw about equal groups in terms of those who supported the right to an abortion and those who opposed it. But over the weekend, the crowds that we saw gather around the Supreme Court were in line with that poll that you just detailed. A majority of them were ones that were very frustrated and upset, crying because they weren't happy with the decision the Supreme Court made. I met one woman, Heidi, who flew up from Florida once she saw the decision come down because she felt that she had to be here. I want you to listen to some of our conversation around how she thinks this is impacting our rights.
Just went and saw the Constitution this morning, and I recognized that it was fading. And I said to the people around me that our rights are fading also, and that's really the way that most of us feel.
I also met Nora, an 8.5-month pregnant woman. She's about to give birth to a daughter, and she was just distraught to think about the fact that she will be bringing her daughter into this world with less rights than she as a mother had when she was conceived. And she made the point, yes, we want to go vote in November and we want to hold our lawmakers accountable. But she and other people told me there's a sense of frustration because they did vote in 2020. They voted for President Biden. They voted for the senators and the lawmakers that are in Congress right now, and they want to see action taken now before November. Savannah.
Now, Maura, the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade is also impacting people's outlook on other rights protected through previous Supreme Court rulings like same-sex marriage, access to contraceptives, especially from some things that we saw from Justice Thomas that was written. What are they saying about that? What are people thinking?
Right. So this was something that was suggested in the opinion that Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the decision that came down on Friday. And it was especially poignant yesterday on the anniversary of the day that the Supreme Court had legalized gay marriage, giving that right to people looking for same-sex marriage. And so that's something that now people are seeing are on the line. I spoke with two younger women who kind of expressed the question mark that follows all of this.
I think it's a little concerning as long as they're in there, you know, we could have like gay marriage taken away as well, because we had this for 50 years and all of a sudden that we can't have an abortion anymore or make our own rights. So I think we should be worried.
What's going to happen next?
So this is something that a lot of people have expressed concern about, but experts do point out there is a difference between overturning Roe v. Wade because it involves the life of a child, whereas same-sex marriage or contraception might ride the line a little differently. But this is something that people were really concerned about, especially because in some of those conservative justice hearings when they were getting appointed, like with Justice Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, they'd expressed that they respected the precedent of Roe v. Wade. And so now people are questioning if they'll respect the precedent of other cases.
And Maura, quickly, I do want to ask about these states with so-called trigger laws banning abortion access. What does this mean for women in those states?
So it's going to be a case-by-case, state-by-state basis. But essentially, some of these states across the country had a 30-day marker for if and when Roe v. Wade was overturned, or in some part of it was overturned. Some of them have a 30-day waiting period until that gets overturned. Others, like Missouri, the governor just needed to sign the abortion ban into effect, essentially. So we saw that happen on Friday afternoon with Missouri. And then when you look at it, there's going to be very limited exceptions for when women can get an abortion. In Arkansas, for example, there's no exceptions when it comes to incidents of rape or incest. Abortions are only allowed in the case where the mother's life is at risk. And so that's why you see states like Illinois, which is surrounded by states that have indicated that they plan on passing an abortion ban. They're ramping up their resources. The White House also saying that they're working to protect the right to be able to cross state lines so that women can get the health care they need. Savannah.
All right, Maura Barrett, thank you so much. Now, the end of Roe v. Wade clears the path for states to begin penalizing and criminally prosecuting people who receive or provide abortions. Joining us now is Jessica Floyd, president of American Bridge, a Democratic political action committee. Jessica, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So this Dobbs ruling essentially turns abortion into an issue that then is decided on the state level. So what's next for you, for abortion rights supporters? What actions are you taking?
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. It is an incredibly dark morning to wake up on the first week that we have lost these rights. And what we're already seeing around the country are states making active moves to take advantage of this, and Republican officials everywhere saying that this isn't the end, whether it's a national abortion ban or moving to even more draconian laws in various states. And so I think the number one thing is this isn't over. We need to continue to fight. There's a ballot initiative in Kansas that is currently on the ballot and will be voted on before November. So there are a number of steps that we need to understand are going to make it either harder or easier for women to access care. There's also an entire network of caregivers and abortion funds that are prepared to help women and other patients who need abortion care and health care, and that supporting them in this moment is incredibly important.
Now, this decision comes at this really specific time. It's the end of a Supreme Court term and just ahead of pivotal midterm elections. And again, this is now an issue that goes to the states. You represent a Democratic political action committee. Does this show of force by the High Court's conservative majority affect Democrats' strategy for this election cycle? What does this mean for you heading into midterms?
I think it absolutely should. When we polled in the fall, right after Texas had its ban go into effect, only about 33% of voters that we talked to thought that Roe versus Wade could be overturned or would be overturned. Now, so that was two-thirds of the population thought that this wasn't going to happen. And I think it speaks to some of what your earlier segment was talking about, which is that this is really unprecedented territory. This is not a divisive issue for most Americans. Most Americans, the vast majority of them, either 7 or 8 out of 10 voters, believe that there should be a constitutional right to abortion. And so you've got 2/3 of people waking up come Friday and Saturday saying, this is something that I thought was enshrined, that I've had and I've understood to be a right that we have in this country for almost 50 years. And I do think that really talking to them about the fact that this is not something that happened overnight, number one. This is not an unelected, unaccountable body of judges in the Supreme Court that did this. This is the Republican Party that made this happen. And we're already seeing, as I mentioned, candidates from around the country. Here at American Bridge, we launched a website that is a public resource for anyone who wants to understand where Republican politicians stand on this issue. Over the weekend, reprofiles.com, we updated that website with 30 different state legislative candidates in Arizona alone that want to restrict abortion care.
And just quickly, Jessica, if you could just tell me what states you're focused on.
Look, the entire battleground is up for grabs. I'm particularly focused on governor's races, like in Pennsylvania, where Doug Mastriano has said that he wants to ban abortion. That is wildly out of step with the rights that the people of that Commonwealth want and deserve. But in the entire battlefield, this is an issue of freedom. This is something that people from across the political spectrum want in place. And I think that it really is an opportunity to say what has happened, how it's going to impact women, families, providers, their loved ones, and frankly, like their ability to decide their own future. And then we have to remind them who really is to blame here, and it's the Republican Party.
Okay, Jessica Floyd, thank you so much. Now, for another view on this historic ruling, let's bring in Carol Tobias, president of the National Right to Life. Carol, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. So Friday's decision, I understand, actually came down as the National Right to Life Committee happened to be hosting its annual convention. So first, just tell me, what was their reaction like there to the ruling?
The room erupted in cheers. We've been working for 50 years to protect unborn children. There is absolutely no hint in the Constitution that there is a right to kill unborn children. The states prior to 1973 overwhelmingly still protected unborn children. So the Supreme Court rightly decided that Roe v. Wade was an egregious error. It was overturned. And we now have the opportunity to protect innocent human beings from death. And we're excited for the challenges ahead.
Now, Carol, one of the main arguments for this for quite some time now, certainly for Roe then, and as we've sort of become accustomed to it, was that even if a state banned abortions, that women who had the access and the ability to do so could still get the procedure if that means crossing state lines or needing to pay for a hotel, that type of thing. But that poorer women without many resources, many times women of color, maybe people who already have children, are forced to go through with a pregnancy that they don't want. But in your view, what does this ruling mean for women in those vulnerable situations, women who need support should they carry a pregnancy to term? What does this mean there?
The pro-life movement has open arms, open hearts to help women through what may be a difficult time. There are more than 2,700 pregnancy resource centers around the country who will hold her hand and walk with her through the period, whether it is health care for her and her baby, a place to live, resources, clothing, just support. For some women, it's just kind of a scary time and they just want someone to hold their hand. The pro-life movement is already doing that. And we are more than ready and willing to expand any services that are necessary to help women through what may be kind of a surprising or difficult time for them.
And Carol, as this sort of power on the decision on abortion has turned back over to the states, what are you focused on? What's your organization looking at as this debate continues, since it now just goes to the state level?
We're certainly going to do everything we can to protect unborn children, because in an abortion, a human being dies. And we are going to try to work, over the last couple of years, we've always heard follow the science. We want people to do that with abortion as well. We're talking about living human beings that are members of the human family. So we are going to try to protect as many as we can. In states that insist that abortion is still going to be legal, then I am going to encourage them and do what we can to say that they have to at least give information to the women seeking abortion about possible complications to abortion, or the fact, or alternatives that are available, or the fact that the abortion chemical pill can actually be reversed. If she takes that first pill, changes her mind, isn't sure she wants to go through with this, but acts quickly enough, she can stop that abortion. We've got more than 3,000 babies in this country that are alive because their mothers changed their mind and chose life. So I think those are the kinds of information and things that we want to get out there to women who are considering abortion. This does not have to be, it is not their only option. And I am really upset that the abortion industry and the people who claim to speak for women are only offering one choice. Killing their child is not going to answer or solve their problems.
Carol Tobias, thank you so much for your time and your perspective this morning. Now, we want to take a look at the legal side of this ruling and what it could potentially mean for other landmark cases. Let's bring in our friend, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savelis for more. So, Danny, first, let's start with Friday's ruling and the potential legal implications here as these trigger laws go into place, as laws that were on the books from pre-Roe come back into play here. What happens for people if they're criminally charged for performing or receiving an abortion? What could their potential case look like in a courtroom?
The answer is anything that particular state's legislature wants it to be. And that brings us really to the next battleground in this debate, which is going to be state extraterritorial jurisdiction, the power of an individual state to criminalize activity that happens off campus. In other words, off the state grounds in an adjacent state or some other state. An example might be a resident of that state who picks up, gets in the car or gets on a bus and drives to a neighboring state in order to obtain an abortion. To what degree can that original state criminalize that activity, even where the abortion doesn't happen within state boundaries? So that is where we're going to see the next battles in this controversy.
I also want to ask you about where we could see this headed with potentially other rights that were granted by the High Court. So Justice Clarence Thomas says he wants the court to revisit and overturn potentially other landmark rulings, ones that legalize same-sex marriage, the right to obtain contraception. And he says, quote, "We have a duty to correct the error established in those precedents." Now, after last week's ruling, I mean, what do you make of that? Does that mean those cases are in jeopardy? Of course, it has to be something that brings it to the court again. But what do you make of reading that in that opinion? Had you asked me that question last week on Thursday, before this opinion came out, I would have said, Savannah, pshaw. If you read that earlier draft opinion that was leaked, Justice Alito went to great lengths to say, take it easy. Abortion is what we call sui generis in Latin. It just means unique. Abortion is the only right that results in the termination of another life. Abortion is different for many reasons, reliance interests, all these other reasons that make it unique. You need not worry about all of these other bundle of rights that are the unenumerated rights, part of substantive due process that the Warren Court created by expanding on rights that they saw that were kind of in the Ninth Amendment, kind of in the Fourth Amendment, this penumbra, this glowing of rights. That's what I would have said Thursday. And then Clarence Thomas has a single sentence in his concurring opinion that blew up the landscape and totally changed my view, because I have to feel a little bit like Lucy in the Football and Charlie Brown. So many times I even wrote an article, an op-ed about this that I'm going to get bashed over the head about, that said, I don't think we need to worry about Roe v. Wade because so many nominees said, hey, it's settled law. Well, shame on me. Now we have Justice Thomas saying we should revisit it. He's the senior most judge. He's got a lot of influence. So I think folks should be concerned now about all these other bundle of rights that came out of the Warren Court era, Obergefell included, Lawrence v. Texas. All of these rights that aren't explicitly in the Constitution, they may now be up for grabs. And that was a point that's actually been raised by some lawmakers, that they feel that they heard something different in some of those confirmation hearings than what we actually saw play out. Danny Savalas, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate your help here. Now, a path for abortion rights at the federal level will likely have to go through Congress, but it won't be an easy process. In an op-ed over the weekend in the New York Times, Senators Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Tina Smith of Minnesota called on President Biden to declare a public health emergency. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News reporter Julie Sirkin. Julie, good morning. So in that op-ed, Warren and Smith declared that a public health emergency would help, quote, protect abortion for all Americans and also unlock critical resources to meet the demand for help for these reproductive health services. How likely is a path like that?
Yes, Savannah, good morning. In addition to Senators Warren and Smith, 20 House Democratic women also called on President Biden to do the same, to enact these executive orders that they say will assist women in states that have already enacted laws making abortions illegal or extremely restricted to access abortion clinics, perhaps for women in minority communities. I heard you talking about them in your prior interview, helping them get to abortion clinics with vouchers for travel and other ideas that the senators and these House Democratic women presented. But as President Biden's abroad, he hasn't signaled that he will do anything like this. And remember, the number one thing standing in the way of any federal action from the president is the Hyde Amendment. That's that law that prevents federal funds from being used for abortion access in many of these states, of course, that already outlawed it. Savannah?
Now, actually, a day before the Supreme Court decision, also Senator Smith had introduced a new bill to try to codify access to abortion pills. What challenges are in the way of Congress voting to approve really any measure related to abortion?
Well, simply put, it's the filibuster. It's that 60-vote threshold that we've been hearing about time and time again, especially in this 50-50 split Senate for a number of issues, including voting rights. That's something that Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema again signaled as recently as Friday when this decision came down, that they're not willing to change those rules, even for something like abortion access. Senator Smith, the day before this ruling came out, of course, calling for Congress to codify abortion pills. There's been other measures introduced, including by Senator Patty Murray, the Health Committee chair in the Senate. They want to be able to codify abortion protections for women, but until that threshold is eliminated, there's no world in which all 50 Democrats plus 10 Republicans get together to support something on a federal level. So for right now, Democrats have all this frustration that they could channel virtually into nothing other than calling voters to go to the polls.
Julie, before I let you go, I do want to switch gears here really quickly and ask you about the bipartisan gun bill that was signed into law by President Biden over the weekend. We know that the new law does several things. It includes enhancing background checks. It closes this so-called boyfriend loophole, and it also helps with funds for youth mental health services. So what's next here? Is there a path going forward to further enhance gun safety? I know this was a big step, the biggest we've seen in decades, but what's next here?
Yeah, exactly. And typically, before this decision from the Supreme Court on Roe, this is what we would have been leading every show with and talking about, because it's the first major gun reform in 30 years. And it took a lot of bipartisan compromise and cooperation from both sides to make this happen. Now, Democrats, including Senator Chris Murphy, who is the lead Democrat in these negotiations, said that this is just the first step. He assured advocates that Democrats especially are going to continue building on this progress in the coming years because, of course, mass shootings continue to happen time and time again. But this, for now, a major step that President Biden signed into law on Saturday.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much. Now, coming up, President Biden kicked off the G7 summit overseas with a focus on Ukraine and the global economy. But the decision to overrule Roe v. Wade is also looming large. What international leaders are saying about the ruling, that's next.
Now Tonight with Joshua Johnson, streaming weeknights at 8 on NBC News Now. The day's biggest political stories with trusted insight now and expert analysis now. A daily look at the politics behind the headlines. Meet the Press Now, streaming weekdays at 4 p.m. on NBC News Now.
We'll meet Ukrainians who are defending their country one block at a time. When you were still in Kiev, could you hear the bombing? My name is Lester. Who's this?
To cover the news, you have to be in it. This is how so many towns and cities are protecting themselves. They're pushing the gates open. Was there a school officer on campus? That's what we've been told.
No. Top Story with Tom Yamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Hallie Jackson Now, weekdays at 5 on NBC News Now.
We'll meet Ukrainians who are defending their country one block at a time. When you were still in Kiev, could you hear the bombing? My name is Lester. Who's this?
Born to Rule, When Charles is King. A new podcast. Listen now.
We'll meet Ukrainians who are defending their country one block at a time. When you were still in Kiev, could you hear the bombing? My name is Lester. Who's this?
NBC News, streaming free now.
Now Tonight with Joshua Johnson, streaming weeknights at 8 on NBC News Now.
NBC News, streaming free now.
We're back now with international reaction to the decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. President Biden is in Germany for a major summit with G7 leaders, with the war in Ukraine topping the agenda. But ahead of that meeting, some of those leaders have condemned the ruling. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the news, quote, horrific, saying his heart goes out to millions of American women. He added, quote, no government, politician, or man should tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. France's President Emmanuel Macron expressed his solidarity with women, tweeting, quote, abortion is a fundamental right. It must be protected. Those views were also echoed by British Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
This is not our court, it's another jurisdiction, but clearly it has massive impacts on people's thinking around the world. It's a very important decision. I've got to tell you, I think it's a big step backwards. I've always believed in a woman's right to choose, and I stick to that view.
NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is covering the G7 meeting in Germany from just across the border in Austria. Kelly, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So, strong reaction there from some of these G7 leaders about this decision. First, let's just talk about the timing of this ruling. The fact that it comes right as President Biden is among all these other leaders. The focus wanted to be on something like Ukraine. But what does this moment now mean for America on the world stage?
Well, it is interesting that the focus on what is happening at home always travels with an American president. And certainly these leaders have registered their views, and it does affect an American president if there is turmoil and division at home. At the same time, they are here for a limited amount of time to work on very serious issues. And so leaders at this level are able to compartmentalize. And President Biden was asked if this decision has come up in the conversations, and he said it has not, at least not in any of the formal dialogue between the leaders. He is aware of the views of these leaders who he has dealt with and has a personal relationship with. And certainly when there is ever some kind of division, unrest, distress in the United States, that affects certainly how the American president is viewed on the world stage. Of course, President Biden is not directly involved in this kind of a decision. The Supreme Court is a separate branch of government, but they are also able to put that aside, if you will. Does it affect sort of the American reputation? Perhaps it does in the eyes of some of the other leaders, but they are able to focus on the work at hand. So it's hard to separate what is happening at home from what the president has to deal with here. But if there is a group who can do that separating, it is probably these leaders who have some very serious business to attend to here. Savannah?
And Kelly, let's move away from abortion rights for a minute and talk about what would have been the focus otherwise, but is still a huge focus, the war in Ukraine, one of the many issues at this summit. President Zelensky spoke to leaders just earlier this morning, and it was just a day after Kyiv was hit once again with missiles. Tell us about his message and what kind of support is the G7 offering?
Can't stress enough how much Ukraine is what is bringing these leaders together. And President Biden is saying that one of his chief objectives here is to try to keep that unity. And so far, we are seeing that. And the virtual address by President Zelensky into these leaders who he has a personal, almost day-to-day relationship with on the telephone, makes a difference. And so he has been asking for financial and military support. And we know from our reporting that the U.S. is stepping up with additional resources. We know that the U.S. will provide a new surface-to-air missile system for Ukraine, also additional munitions and radar. And the group collectively is taking steps to try to put more pressure on Russia to bar the import of Russian gold, to try to take steps with additional sanctions, and to keep that pressure up on Russia so that it has financial penalties and more condemnation from the world community to make it harder for Russia to wage this war in Ukraine. So Ukraine is certainly dominating a lot of what they've been discussing here, in addition to other issues about infrastructure around the world, climate, and other matters. It is Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine for a lot of what these leaders have been talking about.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell, as always, thank you so much for your reporting. And now let's get a check on your morning news now weather, which means Michelle Grossman joins me. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. We are looking at a few big weather stories this week. The first one being the West heating up. We're looking at temperatures climbing into the 90s and 100s. That's 15 to 20 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. So heat alerts stretch from the northwest to the southwest. We're looking from Seattle to Medford down to Anaheim, and it's going to be toasty there as we head throughout this Monday. Taking a look at some of these temperatures, Boise 101 today. That's 14 degrees above what is average for this time of year. Same story in Redding 103, and Los Angeles, you're going to be above average too, right around 80 degrees. And then tomorrow we're going to see that heat spreading to the east. So now Idaho Falls, you're into the 90s. That's 11 degrees above average, 86 in Sioux Falls. And we're looking at really comfortable temperatures in the southern plains. That's going to change, though, as this heat does expand to the east as we go through the later part of this week. So by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Chicago, you're into the 90s on Thursday, upper 80s on Friday. Same story in New York City. We're back into those really warm territories. We're looking at 86 on Thursday, 89 degrees on Friday. Atlanta, you're going to be near 90 degrees as well. So today we have a cold front that's bringing the east unsettled weather. You need the umbrella as you head out today. We're looking at that cold front stretching from the northeast all the way down to the southern plains. And we're looking at embedded thunderstorms as well. So we're not expecting them to reach severe limits, although we could see really gusty winds with any of these storms and some flash flooding. You can see those darker colors, the yellows, the reds, the oranges. That's where that heavy rain is falling. So we will see downpours as we go throughout this Monday. And then we're going to clear out nicely on Tuesday. The dew points are going to be really nice on Tuesday, and the temperatures are going to be really comfortable. But we're going to watch that cold front move to the east today, sparking those storms from New England all the way to the Gulf Coast. That heavy rain tomorrow as we see that cold front kind of getting hung up in the Gulf Coast. And then it's going to be enhanced enhanced also by a little cluster of showers and storms in the Gulf. That could pick up some tropical characteristics as we head out today. We're also, Savannah, looking at another system in the Atlantic that could become our next tropical depression in the next few days. Back to you.
All right, Michelle, as always, thank you, and we'll see you in a bit.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.